Late one evening, I was walking home. I live in a residential area that is virtually crime-free. My neighbor Ginger, a beautiful 30-year-old cutie, was entering her house. When Miss Superwoman opened her door, some creep jumped out of the trees and pushed her into the house. She screamed. I grabbed the pipe from the trash can and ran towards it. A man who looked like an animal was pulling off her clothes. I hit him on the arm with the pipe and he flew out the door. She was crying and completely upset. I made tea and calmed her down. We called the police and explained what happened. After the police left, Ginger took my phone number in case the idiot came back. I never hit on Ginger. She was too attractive. I was married for 5 years to a gorgeous doll. My wife was hit on by half the guys she dated. She eventually found Mr. Irresistible and left me. Now, all I wanted was to meet an average woman who, like me, longs for children and a comfortable life. A few days later, Ginger called and invited me to dinner to reward me. We went to a small Italian restaurant with delicious food. Ginger is very smart, witty, and fun to be around. She immediately went on my "don't get involved" list. Reliving the hell I went through with my wife was not part of my plan. I thanked her for a great evening. She said it was just a small reward for protecting her. Ginger also enjoyed our meeting and asked me if I would be interested in going on another date. I replied that she was way out of my league. I was honestly looking for someone to commit myself to for life. She mentioned that she is tired of living alone and is also looking for a marriage partner. I explained that I was married to a beautiful woman and did not enjoy being constantly hit on by men. When we entered the room, all the men's eyes were focused on my ex. When we were at a party, I was amazed at how many of my male friends joined us for conversation. At an event where there was a dance, she spent all her time either dancing with some stud or refusing to dance with anyone. I was aware that all the players were constantly trying to get her attention. She didn't seem to notice anything. Apparently, my ex-wife wasn't that inconsiderate after all. Ginger was even more attractive than my ex, Tom, she said directly and sincerely. You are a very sweet and bright, funny person who is a pleasure to be around. I don't consider you a failure. You could beat anyone I've ever dated. I thanked him, but quietly moved the conversation in a different direction. We stopped there. I'd meet her on the street and we'd have short conversations every now and then, but that was it. Well, at least for the next few months. A few weeks before Christmas, Ginger stopped me and asked if I could accompany her to her office Christmas party. She wanted me to experience dating her among people. I couldn't refuse. She looked amazing. Ginger surprised me when I took her hands. She was dressed very conservatively, with a minimum of makeup. She was definitely attractive without the hot, sexy, come-on look. My ex would never leave the house for a party looking like that. Ginger was too pretty to be considered ugly, but she was as unassuming as a naturally gorgeous babe could be. She mentioned that she was an executive secretary and always dressed modestly at work. I was surprised and impressed. That evening we had a ball. She danced with me almost every dance. Men paid attention to her, but did not particularly flirt or make advances towards her. Ginger exuded strength and confidence, not welcoming over-familiarity. She explained that she was serious at work and did not tolerate any nonsense. Many people thought she preferred women. Ginger has never, ever dated a coworker. I was impressed. We started dating. She always dressed appropriately. Her attractiveness, in my opinion, did not require any special embellishment. We had a lot in common. Gradually, we became affectionate and, almost without thinking, began a passionate sexual relationship. She wore sexy outfits and amazing makeup, but only with me. We strived to spend every second together. She moved in with me. I cooked all the food and she did most of the cleaning. We were both very happy. We respected each other's passions and shared what we both enjoyed. It was the happiest period of my life. That's when Ginger, in her supreme wisdom, decided we should get married. I liked who we were, and I liked the idea of marriage. After all, this was what I always wanted with the right woman, of course. I had a lot of worries. I spent time researching what makes wives cheat and what to look out for. I asked Ginger to go through my list of requests and see if she could agree to it. List, first, never go drinking with anyone but me. No bachelorette parties with drinking and dancing. Second, it's okay to go out to dinner with only women, but you should limit the number of drinks to 2. Third, don't take jobs that involve travel. Fourth, there cannot be a job that requires a lot of overtime. If the job changes and requires more and more time, then quit. Fifth, no lunches or dinners alone with a man. If any of the rules on the list are violated, I will get a divorce. No discussion about the reason why the list was broken. I'll stick to the list too. What is fair is fair. I asked her to take a week and think about the list. Ginger wasn't thrilled with the list. You never know what can happen in life. Her boss could ask her to have lunch with him, and she wouldn't be able to refuse. In many jobs, there were women who had a bachelorette party outside the home. She would have a hard time turning down a great job just because it involved travel. After much discussion, we decided that marriage was out of the question. Since we were both looking for lifelong partners, we should have separated as we obviously couldn't agree. We parted ways. This, again, turned into a dark period of my life. I didn't go on dates. I spent a lot more time working and drinking. After a few months, I stopped drinking and tried to get my life back on track. I never contacted Ginger, and she never tried to contact me. I went on a few dates that didn't mean anything. I was not delighted with any of the women I met. The world seemed gray. About 6 months after we broke up, Ginger suddenly called me. She wanted to discuss something with me over dinner. I invited her over and made her favorite shrimp risotto. She came looking sexy and glamorous. We had a great dinner, complete with some very expensive wine that she bought. Ginger had never been married and did not present any of the problems listed as applicable to herself. She told me that she had decided to go through the list piece by piece to make sure I was correct in my assessment. Point 1. She was with the ladies from work at a bachelorette party. Of course, when they started dancing, the married women got carried away. The men grabbed their butts and groped them. Most didn't mind. Drinks were undoubtedly involved. One of them joined the man in the back seat of the car. Disgusting. I knew it wasn't for me, Ginger said matter-of-factly. Everyone drank too much as if they were asking for trouble. Giving up this as an activity is not a problem for her. The only problem, she said, is that I refuse to be told what I can or cannot do. Point 2. No problem. I rarely drink 2 glasses and never more. The only problem, she repeated, is that I refuse to be told what I can or cannot do. Point 3. This is a difficult problem. I may never be offered a traveling job, so why should I give up my marriage to a great guy over something that will probably never happen? I decided to talk to a married friend of mine who traveled at least 1 week a month. I asked her how this affects the marriage. She said she would be honest with me but not tell her whole story. She said she liked it. This gave her time to be away from her 2 children. She definitely appreciated her husband more since she saw him less often. But her husband hated it. They received amazing income from this work. Without this, her husband would have left her. He didn't enjoy their sex life. It was intermittent, and he felt many times that his wife was having sex with him out of pity. He never fully trusted her. If he couldn't reach her, he suspected the worst. She didn't say it, but I suspect she sometimes had sex while traveling. Guilt created a lack of satisfaction and disrespect for sex with my husband. Her sex at home was not as exciting as sex on trips. She loved her husband and wanted to spend her whole life with him, but she didn't want to give up traveling for him. This says a lot. Point 4. This is similar to the previous point. Ginger may never have a job that requires a lot of overtime, but she won't turn down such work if necessary. Point 5. Ginger didn't quite understand why she couldn't just have lunch or dinner with a man. She agreed that having lunch alone with the same man too often was asking for trouble. But once in a while, she thought, it wasn't necessarily a problem. She then asked me to respond to her comments. First, I wanted to respond to her statement that I refuse to be told what I can or cannot do. I didn't tell her what not to do. We weren't married, but we planned to. I wanted her to know what behavior was unacceptable to me. Telling her after we got married would be a requirement. Now, I have indicated that I would leave any marriage in which such behavior was common. She may or may not accept each item on the list. She makes the decision, not me. Point 1. It wasn't difficult. I feel that a husband or wife who goes out drinking or dancing without their spousey is actually on the verge of cheating, Point 2. More than 2 drinks can lead to problems. I want my wife to always be in control of the situation. Point 3. I want to get married to share my life. Having a travel wife is not my idea of marriage. Raising my children alone is not my goal in life. 200 miles from home, you might believe that a little fling is harmless and you'll never get caught. The severity of the pain associated with going through a divorce is not so obvious. Point 4. Almost the same answer as above. I earn enough money to support us. Overtime would be the gravy we could live without. I want my wife to share my life completely, and I don't need the income from her overtime work. Point 5. A casual lunch wouldn't be a problem. No more than once a week. I don't understand why you need to have dinner with a man. Why it is impossible to find a woman with whom the wife can share friendship and lunch is also a big concern to me. I am also outraged that my wife would share our secrets with some man. We started working on the list. We both had secure incomes and agreed that our marriage was more important than any job or any person. It was not difficult to agree on the first and second points. We both agreed instantly. The third one might be a problem. None of us would want to give up a great job because we would have to travel. However, leaving the spouse at home with the children was also not an option. After thinking about it, we decided that marriage is more important than work. That a small amount of travel is acceptable, but if it causes problems in our marriage, such work will be stopped. Point 4. For a special project that would only last a month or two, a limited amount of overtime was allowed. If it requires more than that, then the company will have the problem, not us. Point 5. This problem was more difficult to solve. What if the boss invited his spouse to lunch to discuss a project? What if someone kept joining her for lunch? Well, if on the rare occasion the boss joined the spouse for lunch, it was acceptable as long as it was truly work-related. Opposite sex was acceptable if it was rare and if you usually ate with someone of the same sex. After that, we agreed that the list was not a law, but serious guidelines created to make both partners more comfortable. Divorce was not a threat, but a consequence of bad behavior. The list identified bad behavior when it became habitual. Proof of infidelity is not required, just stepping on the slippery slope and it will be considered sufficient for divorce. This opened the door. We moved in together again over the next 6 months. We both knew about the other's feelings. We got married. Luckily, after having 2 children, Ginger stopped working. We had a strong family life. She was always beautiful, and men would hit on her, but usually only once. She made it abundantly clear where she was. We have always loved each other, and over the years this feeling has become stronger. Shortly before her death, Ginger told me that she had never broken a single item on this list and had never regretted it.